Part 18. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Chi Wen. Chapter 173. Weidane Mountain, Kingmu Village. After Wang Shuo arranged the affairs of the territory, he brought Gongzheng, Zhang Yingyu, and more than 20 soldiers here. The tall village gate is at least 8 meters high, and it is built on a 2-meter-high stone platform. Both sides are blocked by boulders. If you want to attack the mountain village, you can only force the village gate. There are several watchtowers on both sides, connected by wood, making a passage for people to pass through. A large number of archers can stand on them to carry out long-range attacks on the enemies in front of the village gate. Wang Shuo couldn't help but take a breath. Fortunately, he didn't rush to attack, otherwise no matter how many people came, they might not be able to capture this mountain village. Seeing Wang Shuo coming, the soldiers guarding the village quickly opened the village gate and welcomed Wang Shuo in. The mountain village is full of rough buildings. The most majestic building in the middle is the meeting hall. When you walk in, you can see a huge tiger skin chair, which looks majestic and domineering. However, the animal bones and meat on the ground were still emitting bursts of meaty aroma, making the hall look a bit dirty. And there were also scattered pieces of wine bowls, which made the ground look even more messy. Wang Shuo walked over carefully, sat on the tiger skin chair, and looked into the distance. The view was surprisingly wide. If the weather was fine, he could even see the foot of the mountain. Wang Shuo casually wandered around in the backyard again. There were dense jungles all around, exotic flowers and plants everywhere, bursts of fragrance filled the air, and ravines and gullies in the distance. The view was excellent, and Wang Shuo felt relaxed and happy. It's just that the style of the building is not exquisite enough, otherwise, this place must be a beautiful mountain villa. After just a simple appreciation, Wang Shuo said to Zhang Yingyu, "Where is the treasure of the mountain village?" "Lord, please follow me." Zhang Yingyu led Wang Shuo and others to a hidden cellar. "Lord, be careful, there are traps here." Wang Shuo was shocked. He was amazed that these bandits still had such a sense of defense, and was also surprised that Zhang Yingyu, a small mountain thief, actually knew all this. "Lord, don't be surprised. I just asked a bandit leader who had followed the boss into the mountain, and I found out about this." Zhang Yingyu explained when he saw Wang Shuo's surprised expression. Wang Shuo was shocked and quickly checked his loyalty. He found that it was still 100%, and then he felt relieved. It seems that this little thief still has some brains. It was a little dim in the cellar. After Zhang Yingyu lit the oil lamp, Wang Shuo found his golden treasure chest at a glance, which was placed on a shelf. It was filled with a large amount of gold and silver treasures, as well as various weapons and equipment. However, these were not what Wang Shuo valued most. On the shelf, several scrolls caught Wang Shuo's attention. Golden leaf fish scale armor production drawings, 10 gold ingots add 10 fine iron ingots, and hidden moon line and defense rune enchantment one time, requiring a senior blacksmith military standard armor, can be mass produced. The other one is the rhinoceros leather armor production drawing, which is also gold equipment. Wang Shuo was ecstatic when he saw these 2 gold equipment drawings. If they can be mass produced, the defense of his troops will be improved by several levels. After seeing that it requires a senior blacksmith, Wang Shuo finally understood why it was put on the shelf. Wang Shuo frowned. It seems that Mutar is only an intermediate blacksmith. Only by going back to ask, can we know if there is a way to make it. He looked at another palm-sized animal skin, and after opening it, it turned out to be a treasure map fragment. In this way, Wang Shuo has collected 3 treasure map fragments. As long as he goes back and takes out the other 2, he can know the secret of this treasure map. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Chi Wen. Chapter 174. After collecting all the property, Wang Shuo got the exact amount of supplies. Soul Crystal at 200, Energy Crystal at 10,000, Gold Coin at 80,000. A few other resources, and some animals such as pigs, sheep, and cows that can be raised in the backyard. Wang Shuo's face was full of smiles. He was worried about his own farm, and there were no animals to raise. Now he finally filled this gap. Then he came to the core of the mountain stronghold, and after a series of attacks, he finally consumed the durability. At this time, the system prompt sounded. You have broken through Kingmu village, you can choose to occupy or destroy it. Wang Shuo stopped his hand and read the instructions carefully. After destroying it, you can get a silver village building order. After choosing to occupy it, you can refresh 20 bandits every day. Wang Shuo fell into deep thought and carefully considered the pros and cons. After thinking for a while, he saw Zhang Yingyu in the distance, and his eyes lit up. It would be better to let him stay in the mountain stronghold, so that he can increase 20 troops every day. Zhang Yingyu, I now appoint you as the leader of Kingmu village. Do you want to manage this place for me? Wang Shuo walked over and stared at Zhang Yingyu and said in deep thought. I am willing. He was stunned for a while, then he knelt down and bowed to Wang Shuo. Zhang Yingyu didn't expect that such a good thing would happen to him. He could only think that his efforts must have moved Lord Zack, so that he could go from a small mountain thief to a mountain king in one day. Although there is still a master above him, he is still one man above 10,000 people. Do a good job. When our territory develops well in the future, we will not treat you unfairly. Wang Shuo patted him on the shoulder and encouraged him. After leaving a certain amount of living supplies, Wang Shuo returned to the village with his subordinates. Feng's village. Zhao Tian's fled back to the village with dozens of defeated soldiers. Along the way, his subjects saw Zhao Tian's embarrassed appearance and their expressions were very rich. Most of them were forced to join the village, and they had no sense of belonging, so their loyalty was naturally not high. However, due to Zhao Tian's power, they did not point fingers. But Zhao Tian still felt a kind of mockery from their eyes. What are you looking at? Do your own thing. If you fail to complete the task, you will not have food tonight. Zhao Tian scolded the people around him. Back to the Lord's mansion, he sat on the throne and smashed a tea bowl. Wang Shuo, I swear I will not be a human if I don't take revenge, he roared hysterically. The soldiers who followed him were frightened and shuddered. Since you like to use cavalry, then I will train more soldiers to restrain cavalry, and see what you will do. Zhao Tian frowned and said to one of his soldiers, go call Commander Lu to intensify the training of spearmen. After that, he came to a secret room and looked at a statue and studied it seriously. His fighting spirit was rekindled in his heart. Perhaps, this thing is his hope for a comeback. At this time, the Battle of Nanshanji finally came to an end. The tragic battlefield was full of corpses, and it was more intense than Wang Shuo's battle. There were more than 2,000 people participating in the battle. The final result of the battle was that both sides suffered losses and there was no winner. The forces of the parties temporarily reached a settlement because no one could afford the cost of another fight. The Iron Sword Gate occupied an area in the west of Nanshanji, while the east was controlled by other large and small gangs. As for the core area of Nanshanji, all the new players did not know what was going on inside because they had never been in. Maybe some players from outside the domain knew, but no one told the secret. Even Niwu did not take any action against the core area, and other gangs had no idea. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 175. Wang Shuo returned to Wana village and saw that the territory was building infrastructure again. The population of the territory had skyrocketed, and many facilities were not enough, such as toilets. Hello, Lord. Hello, Lord. Along the way, the people who saw Wangshuo greeted him enthusiastically. At first, it was only the people who had experienced the period when the beasts surrounded the village. Later, other people were also infected and looked at this lord curiously. Hello, Wangshuo watched these people, both familiar and unfamiliar, return the greetings one by one, and even occasionally chatted with them. Wangshuo actually didn't like this kind of scene, but there was no way. For the sake of people's hearts and loyalty, he could only do this. When he returned to the Lord's mansion, Wangshuo seemed to be exhausted. Boss, Du and Wengzi also ran over happily. Don't you have anything to do? Seeing his smiling face, Wangshuo glared at him. Boss, I'm here to greet you. If you have something to say it now. If you have something to say it now, Wangshuo glared at him and cursed him with a smile. Du and Wengzi smiled mysteriously, and then said, Boss, I found many minerals outside our territory, and there is a particularly large iron mine. According to Myra, this is a second-level iron mine. Wangshuo was startled and showed a puzzled look. Second-level iron mine. Yes, it is the kind of iron mine with a large output and high quality. Du and Wengzi explained, Myra has been stationed in the iron mine and is laying eggs to hatch gold-eating demon insects. Does she need anything else? Wangshuo pondered. Well, he needs energy crystals and soul crystals. Wangshuo didn't want to care about this matter anymore, waved his hand, and said, You are fully responsible for this matter. You provide whatever he needs, and make sure to ensure the mining of iron ore. Yes, boss, there is another thing I want to report to you, that is, there is a special professional talent in our territory, I believe the boss will like it. Tell me. Wangshuo became interested. I will bring the person directly here. Du and Wengzi walked to the door of the Lord's mansion and brought in a handsome middle-aged man. I am Zhou Yuanjia, and I meet the Lord. Zhou Yuanjia saluted to Wangshuo, leaning forward slightly, neither humble nor arrogant. He tried his best to pretend that nothing had happened, hoping to be appreciated by Wangshuo. He was captured from the bandit camp, and his background was not good, and he was powerless. If he didn't get the appreciation of the Lord, his profession would be ruined. Wana village has implemented private ownership. Housing and food require money. The captives have had their property confiscated. If they don't have a job, they can't even afford food in Wana village. And he can't do any other work except the profession of military advisor. After all, it's impossible to work. Even if he wants to work, he can only work for the Lord with wisdom. Wangshuo looked at this man. His long gown was a little worn and even a little dirty. No need to be polite. Wangshuo looked at him carefully again. He saw that he had high cheekbones, thin cheeks, pale face, bright eyes, and a calm face, but his breathing was not very even. His hands drooped naturally, and he didn't know where to put them. I heard that your profession is a military advisor. Wangshuo looked at him in confusion, his eyes were very curious. Wangshuo was naturally very interested in this profession. My lord, yes. Zhou Yuanjia bowed again, with a hint of pride in his words. At present, I only have one skill that can boost morale. As he said that, he showed Wangshuo his skill attributes. High morale, increase the morale of your own troops, 1,000 people, by 10 points, 10% attack damage, lasting for 1 hour, can be upgraded. Oh my god, this is to increase the temporary buff. If the buff level is high enough and the number of your own troops is large enough, the total attack power will be considerable. He has found a treasure, and who knows, he will comprehend some other skills in the future. Wangshuo was overjoyed. This is a talent worth cultivating. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 176. Okay, from today on, I appoint you as the military advisor of Wana village, and you will follow me in the future. Wang Shuo walked over and patted his shoulder gently, with a particularly bright smile on his face. Wengzi, quickly arrange a good place for Yuanjia to live, and send a few sets of clothes over. Thank you, Lord. Zhou Yuanjia finally felt relieved and thanked him quickly. Yes, boss. Duan Wengzi turned his head and looked at Zhou Yuanjia again, put his hand on his shoulder and said, let's go, I'll pick a big house for you. After Duan Wengzi and the others left, Wang Shuo rubbed his head and remembered the 2 drawings he had obtained, so he got up and walked towards the blacksmith shop, and by the way, see how the light catapult is being studied. Mr. Mutar, are you there? Wang Shuo walked into the blacksmith shop and did not see Mutar, so he called softly. Master, go to the woodworking workshop. At this time, Udon jumped out from nowhere and scared Wang Shuo. Lord, our catapult has entered the critical assembly period, and we will be able to test it soon, Wudong said excitedly. Wang Shuo was delighted and said happily, let's go and take a look. The house of the woodworking workshop is much higher than the blacksmith shop, and the space inside is at least 10 meters. The catapult, which is about 5 meters high, has been assembled. Su Mingzhong and Mutar are conducting the final inspection. Lord, seeing Wang Shuo coming in, everyone saluted. You're welcome. How about it, can we test it? Wang Shuo walked around the huge machine and touched it with his hand. Almost done, Lord, Mutar said, and asked someone to push the catapult outside the city gate. The attack range of the catapult reached an astonishing 3,000 meters. It was a bit difficult to use it inside the city wall. If it hits its own buildings, it would be bad. Outside the south gate, Wang Shuo specially invited Wana village, all the high-level people who had no tasks, to watch the test firing experiment of the catapult. Only 4 soldiers and 4 carpenters who participated in the production had clear division of labor and worked together. Some were responsible for turning the rope, some were responsible for loading ammunition, and some were responsible for correcting the direction. Wang Shuo saw the scene and thought to himself that the future war would be very exciting. Whoever could master more large or heavy weapons would definitely take the lead in the war. Release only one of them gave the order. The switch of the catapult was triggered, and the projectile was thrown out at high speed, drawing a parabola in the air. 2,500 meters away, a stone pier prepared in advance was immediately blown to pieces. Good, Wang Shuo was the first to applaud. Seeing this result, Wang Shuo was very satisfied. Not only is the attack distance long, but the power is also huge. Wang Shuo had a bold idea at this time. Is it that his city wall has high defense? Or is his catapult strong in attack? He immediately ordered people to push the catapult to a place 2,000 meters away from the city wall. After loading the projectiles, Wang Shuo personally triggered the switch. Bang! There was only a huge explosion, which exploded on the city wall. Wang Shuo hurried to the place where the city wall was blown up and checked the damage. The attack power of the catapult was as high as 5,000, but it did not cause any damage to the durability of the city wall. Wang Shuo carefully checked it again, and the overall defense of the city wall was still damaged. It seems that it will take a long time to continue bombarding before it is possible to cause damage to the durability of the city wall. Wang Shuo was very satisfied with the results of this experiment. The number of catapults should continue to increase. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 177. Wang Shuo found Mutar and told him that he would continue to manufacture catapults. He then took out 2 gold equipment drawings confiscated from Kingmu village. Mr. Mutar, look at this. Wang Shuo looked at him with some trepidation. If the other party said that he could not do anything, then Wang Shuo would be happy in vain. Sure enough, after carefully examining it for a while, Mutar shook his head. Lord, although I really want to make these 2 pieces of equipment, I am still an intermediate blacksmith. There are 2 key technologies to make these 2 gold equipment, and I can't do it. Wang Shuo showed disappointment on his face, but he still asked, is there really no way? Unless I break through to the advanced blacksmith, but it is not easy. I have been stuck at the intermediate blacksmith for 5 years, and I haven't touched the threshold of the advanced blacksmith yet. Mutar smiled embarrassedly and shook his head slightly. Is there any way to help you break through this bottleneck quickly? I still have a few skills now. If I can practice them to a high level, I might be able to break through to a high level. However, the skills of our blacksmiths are hammered out one by one, which takes a lot of time. Wang Shuo heard this and suddenly had an idea and took out a skill proficiency manual. Can this thing help you? After Mutar took it, his eyes gradually showed light, and finally laughed, but then frowned again. Lord, this can save me a lot of time, but if there is only one copy, it is not enough. Mutar guessed that it would be good for Wang Shuo to have one copy of this good thing, so how could he dare to expect more? How many copies do you need to quickly break through to the intermediate blacksmith? Wang Shuo smiled faintly. At least 3 copies. Mutar thought about it, raised 3 fingers, and said nervously. Wang Shuo directly took out 3 copies for him. This move touched Mutar greatly. Thank you, Lord. I will do my best to contribute to the weapons production of the territory. Mutar was so excited that tears welled up in his eyes. Wang Shuo held Mutar's hand and comforted him. Okay, as long as you contribute to the development of the territory, I will not treat you unfairly. After a while of greeting, Wang Shuo asked everyone to disperse. He took Duan Wengzi and Suo Yang to the city wall. He began to inspect his village. Suo Yang, tell me about the current construction of the village. Several people were walking leisurely on the city wall. Wang Shuo looked into the distance and said casually. Reply to Lord, we have buildings, including the Lord's mansion, village-level administrative center, blacksmith shop, tailor shop, grocery store, and canteen. 20 residential houses, 2 military camps, 20 farms, 3 breeding farms, and toilets. There is no need to talk about toilets, Wang Shuo interrupted. He walked to a place with a wide view, turned his head, looked at Duan Wengzi again, and asked, what is the current population of the territory? Boss, the total population of our territory has reached 1,130 people, including 100 cavalry, 150 city defense troops, 220 archers, 200 Black Mountain bandits, 280 craftsmen and other people such as farmers, breeders, managers, etc., totaling more than 80 people. By the way, how many hearts of the shelter have been collected? Wang Shuo is still a bronze-level village building order, and he has long wanted to upgrade. Through confiscation and purchase, there are already 2 bronze village building orders and more than 90 hearts of the shelter, Duan Wengzi reported. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 178. It is now possible to upgrade the Silver Village building order. Wang Shuo was delighted and quickly returned to the core of the territory to upgrade the village building order to the silver level. But there was no reward, because there were too many Silver Village building order owners. Silver Village building order, the speed of territory construction increased by 2%, the speed of territory soldier training increased by 5%, and the growth cycle of territory crops was shortened by 2%. Upgrading to the 3rd level village, the population has reached the level, and the only thing missing is a 3rd level energy converter. Wang Shuo asked Duan Wengzi, the village does not have this thing now. Wang Shuo thought that among his people, there must be people who came to seek refuge after their villages were destroyed, and they might have this thing. So he asked in the people chat group, dear people, who of you has an energy converter? I will buy it at a high price. Soon, someone responded that the other party wanted 2,000 gold coins, and Wang Shuo did not bargain and traded directly. After synthesizing the third-level energy converter, the system prompted Wang Shuo that he could upgrade the third-level village. Do you want to upgrade Wana village to a third-level village? Yes. There was no system announcement either. It seemed that there were already quite a few level 3 villages. Moreover, Wang Shuo did not wait long either. He thought that it might be because the current buildings were all built by himself, which took a lot of time. So there was no need to wait for a few days to upgrade. Compared with the level 2 villages, the scope of the territory of the level 3 villages was still expanded, and the other changes were not big. At this moment, Wang Shuo noticed that there was a place on the map page that had a slight unusual change. Wang Shuo hurried to the corresponding place. There was an area of about 10 square meters on the edge of the central square, and the color of the land had obviously become a little abnormal. But this change was very slow, and the grass on it looked a little withered and yellow. Wang Shuo observed for a while and remembered that this place should be the territory of Huangfi Guang. There was also a copy buried below, the Dragon King Underground Palace. At that time, because of insufficient strength, the passage was directly blocked. Now it seems that something bad is going to happen. The conflict between him and Zhao Tian's must be resolved. Zhao Tian's raided Wana village. It was impolite not to reciprocate. Wang Shuo wanted to attack the other side's village. But if he went on the expedition, what if something happened in this place? This place is located in the core area of his territory, and nothing can happen. Wang Shuo squatted nearby and observed for a long time, but he still didn't make up his mind. Let's observe for a night first. He asked Bailey Liang's City Defense Army to take out a team to surround this place and monitor it 24 hours a day to prevent other accidents. At night, Wang Shuo continued to comprehend the North Sea Empire text records. The progress was now 80%. Until he felt a little tired, Wang Shuo fell asleep. The next morning, after Wang Shuo got up, he immediately came to the edge of the central square to check the situation above the Dragon King's underground palace. Did anything change last night? Wang Shuo asked the guarding soldier. My lord, there is no special change, but the color of the land has deepened, as if it has been eroded by a cold breath. Wang Shuo squatted down and looked, and the wild grass on it had died. While eating breakfast, Wang Shuo looked worried. We can't wait any longer. He put down his chopsticks, swallowed the food in his mouth, and said to Ayub who was eating with him, prepare for war, we will go to flatten Feng's village today. Yes, my lord. Ayub immediately stood up, bowed straight, and saluted with a hint of excitement on his face. Lord Survival, my shelter in Crocodile territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 179. On the military campgrounds, Wang Shuo was hesitant whether to send the archer camp to participate in the battle. I checked their loyalty points and it was only 82 points. Wang Shuo thought for a while and gave up on this decision. We also recruited 50 tool people from the resource exchange office. He handed it over to Li Jiangguo, formed a ballista battalion, and also allocated to him 2 light catapults that the craftsman battalion rushed to build overnight. Wang Shuo stood on the general stage, briefly boosted his morale, and then set off towards Feng's village with a total of more than 350 people from the Black Mountain Bandits, Golden Fire Cavalry and Ballista Battalion. Since there were not many horses, they launched a siege. Therefore, the role of the cavalry would probably be severely reduced, so Wang Shuo directly ordered 2 horses to transport people back and forth. 2 hours later, all the personnel had gathered in a small mountain col less than 10 miles away from Feng's village. Taking advantage of the break, Wang Shuo sent 2 cavalry teams to investigate the situation near Feng's village. I found that everything was normal, and there were even farmers farming outside the village. It seems that the opponent has not realized that he is going to attack Feng's village. I rested for another hour, ate some food, and adjusted myself. At 11:30 noon, it was time to eat. Wang Shuo took all the troops and rushed to Feng's village. It didn't take long for Feng's village to appear in Wang Shuo's sight. It was only then that the people of Feng's village discovered that there was a large group of people in the distance, heading towards their village. Report. Zhao Tian's is enjoying delicious food in his mansion. Although his subjects are short of food, as a lord, he cannot treat himself badly. Zhao Tian's was obviously unhappy when he saw the soldiers who broke in. What's the matter? You're so frizzy and unbecoming. Zhao Tian's glanced at the soldier with disgust. He originally thought that being a lord meant being an emperor, and that it should be relaxing and comfortable. But I didn't expect that there would be endless things to deal with all day long. He has to worry about everything, but he dare not delegate power for fear that his subordinates will rebel against him. A group of soldiers appeared outside the village, and it seemed they were going to attack our village. When Zhao Tian's heard this, his expression changed. He stood up, threw away the chopsticks in his hand, and exclaimed, "What? How many people are there on the other side?" "About 200 to 300 people. Zhao Tian's hurriedly walked out. Because Feng's village is developing so fast, the population growth rate is much faster than the territory's infrastructure construction. So far, the development of the territory has been very abnormal. There are already 4 military camps, but the residential buildings can only accommodate half of the people. After all, the entire village's population has reached nearly 2,000 people. What's more important is that the fence has not been completed yet, and some areas are still covered with fences." Standing on the low wall, Zhao Tian saw Wang Shuo's army in formation in the distance. Because of the distance, he didn't recognize whose army it was. Wang Shuo was currently 2.5 kilometers away from the village. He arranged the Black Mountain Bandits in an arc shape, with the Ballista Battalion surrounding them in the center. The Golden Fire Cavalry did not appear here, but was hidden in the dense forest in the distance. Only the hidden cavalry can become a surprise force. If the opponent doesn't come out, just keep bombarding them with catapults. If the opponent comes out, then they will be stepped on the ground by the cavalry and rubbed repeatedly. Wang Shuo felt that his tactics were very good, and there was a look of pride on his face. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 180. Light catapults are not suitable for long-distance transportation, but they can be disassembled into several large parts. At this time, the soldiers of the crossbow battalion were assembling catapults and setting up bronze crossbow carts. This time, Wang Shuo brought a total of 2 catapults and 10 crossbow carts, and the long-range attack capability can be said to be unprecedentedly strong. When everything was ready, Li Jiangguo looked at Wang Shuo and asked, "Lord, can we attack?" Wang Shuo glanced at Zhou Yuanjia beside him. At this time, he was wearing clean new clothes, with long hair tied up on his head. Although his face was still pale, his eyes were bright and he looked much more energetic. In his hand, he was holding a feather fan that he didn't know where he got from. Although the weather was still a little cold, he kept shaking the fan from time to time. Wang Shuo wanted to laugh when he saw him like this. This guy, is he trying to imitate someone? Seeing Wang Shuo staring at him, Zhou Yuanjia understood and immediately used his skill, High Morale. Increase the morale and attack power of the surrounding troops by 10 points. Wang Shuo looked up again, glanced at Feng's village from a distance, and nodded. Attack. 2 projectiles streaked through the sky and landed on the opponent's wall. Bang, bang. After 2 loud noises, the wall on the opposite side collapsed like tofu dregs, revealing the true appearance of the territory. When Zhao Tian saw the catapult, he felt something was wrong. The opponent was well prepared. He searched carefully in the opponent's army again, and finally found a figure that made him want to crush his bones and ash, Wang Shuo. Before he had time to curse, the opponent directly blew down his wall. This time, Zhao Tian's was stunned. The corner of his mouth twitched, but he didn't make a sound. The catapult's firing speed was very slow, and the interval between them was generally 2 minutes, which gave Zhao Tian's time to react. Enemy attack, all soldiers, assemble. He was in a panic, but he still shouted loudly. He couldn't run away this time. It was not easy to develop to this point. He couldn't bear to give up this family business. Moreover, after a brief panic, he was actually a little happy. He was fighting on his own land, and the enemy was only relying on catapults to show off their power. His army was several times larger than his, so he was not afraid of anything. Although he lost 400 archers. But he still had 200 shield soldiers, 150 archers, 200 sword soldiers, and 300 reserve militia. He believed that force was supreme, so he focused on developing military power. If there were not enough living supplies, then go and rob them. After the second round of attacks, Zhao Tian's troops had also assembled. At this time, he showed a wicked smile at the corner of his mouth. His number was several times that of the enemy, and they dared to attack his territory. It was simply ignorant of life and death. Last time, he was careless for a while and was fooled. Thinking of this, Zhao Tian suddenly woke up. It seems that the opponent has another cavalry unit that has not appeared. He broke out in a cold sweat, completely overturning his previous fantasy. He must not go out, this must be Wang Shuo's trick. Old bitch. He patted his chest, and a sense of superiority in IQ arose spontaneously. Humph, little guy, I have seen through your tricks. Zhao Tian showed a contemptuous look. Hey, I just don't attack, hey, I'm just playing, he muttered smugly. But the soldiers he gathered were a little confused. Is this Zhao Tian's crazy? In the face of the enemy, he is performing a face changing here? And he is still talking and laughing, but he doesn't order an attack. What's going on? A leading soldier, plucked up his courage, whispered, Lord, don't we fight back? Zhao Tian's looked at the centurion he promoted with an idiotic look, and cursed, fight back your mother. Don't you see, this is the other party's conspiracy. The centurion was scolded and felt a little uncomfortable, but he didn't dare to say anything. The hundreds of soldiers who gathered were also staring at each other, at a loss. The catapult continued to attack. At this time, a large part of the wall had collapsed, and the Lord's mansion was hit by a projectile, and a corner was blown up. Wang Shuo was not in a hurry at this time. This could be said to be an open conspiracy. It seemed like a suspicious attack, but it was indeed an ambush. It depends on how Zhao Tian deals with it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 181. If he doesn't attack, he can only be beaten passively. If he takes the initiative to attack, Wang Shuo will get what he wants. Unless absolutely necessary, Wang Shuo would not rush directly into the opponent's territory. After all, he has fewer troops than his opponent. Although his soldiers are high level and strong, it is still disadvantageous for him to engage in street fighting and close combat. An hour later, Zhao Tian fell into an extremely entangled situation. Is he starting to doubt his life? Did the other party have an ambush? Lord, no matter whether the other party has an ambush or not, we can't sit still and wait for death, a shield soldier commander said sincerely, with an anxious look on his face. Of course, Zhao Tian also knew that it would definitely not work to be passively beaten, but he was worried about the gains and losses when taking the initiative. For a moment, I was anxious, like an ant on a hot pot. Another general who was loyal to him also said with a serious face, Lord, attack, it's nothing to be beaten passively. Even if there is an ambush on the opposite side, we have the advantage of troops, and we still have a great chance of winning. Take the initiative to attack. Zhao Tian's, who calmed down, also felt that what this person said made sense. Okay, then we will use our strong strength to crush them all. No matter what their plots and tricks are, they are all paper tigers in the face of absolute strength. Let's go and crush the bastards on the other side. Zhao Tian's pulled out his sword and shouted at the soldiers below. War! War! Wang Shuo stood next to the catapult and shook his head when he heard the feeble shouts from the other side. It seems that the other party is finally willing to face him head-on. I've been waiting for a long time. Hide the bronze ballista and wait until they get within the attack range to reveal it. Yes, Lord. Li Jiangguo asked the soldiers to stand in front of the ballista to block the view of the other side. Soon, the soldiers from Feng's village couldn't hold it any longer and rushed out. In the distance, Ayub, who was observing the enemy's situation with a telescope, had a smile on his face. Mount your horse and prepare to rush into the enemy's square formation from the flank. After giving the order, the Golden Fire cavalry rushed directly out of the woods. Since the cavalry needs a certain distance to provide a strong impact, it takes at least 2 minutes to reach the battlefield, so it is not too early to be exposed. It can be said to be just right. Close. The ones at the forefront were the shield troops. Everyone held a wooden shield in their hands, and only a few people had iron shields in their hands. At this time, the effectiveness of the catapults had been greatly reduced. Li Jiangguo directly asked all the soldiers of the ballista battalion to operate bronze ballistas to speed up the loading of spears. Strive to be able to fire one more round of attacks during hand-to-hand combat. Wait until the vanguard of Feng's village reaches the attack range of the ballista. All the Black Mountain bandits dispersed to both sides, revealing 10 large killer vehicles that exuded bronze luster. The shield soldiers on the opposite side were obviously stunned. Even if they had no experience, they knew that the spears on them were the life-killing talismans that were meant to be shot at them. The shield soldiers in the front row immediately slowed down, but were pushed forward by the impact of the soldiers behind them. A few soldiers were even pushed down. Soon they will have the brothers to thank for pushing them down. A row of black iron spears roared in with the sound of breaking through the air, directly stringing the standing soldiers into candied haws. The soldier who fell on the ground looked up and saw that his soul was filled with death. Fortunately for them, there was a firing interval for the bronze ballista. For the soldiers in Feng's village, this can be said to be great news. Thanks to the following book friends for their gifts: Xiao 20 at, a nuclear warhead, Qingfui, and the Lucky Rat. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 182. Quick, get close. All the soldiers, not caring about their wounded companions, had to continue to rush forward. Another round of spears came, and they were no longer as panicked as at the beginning. However, before they got close to the bronze crossbow cart, they heard the rumbling sound of horse hooves. An officer looked back and said in shock, "Yes, it's the cavalry. Everyone be careful." However, the charging cavalry was not something they could resist just by saying be careful. The warriors of Feng's village were generally of low level, and they had not experienced too many battles. And the conquest of other villages was basically based on the advantage of numbers, and the other side surrendered directly before they had fought much. It was nothing like the Golden Fire cavalry, which had wiped out tens of thousands of undead. The average level of the Golden Fire cavalry was almost level 20, while the average level of the soldiers of Feng's village was only level 10, and there were even many recruits who were only level 5 or 6. Especially the militia at the back, who had never experienced any decent battles. Seeing the cavalry rushing forward with great momentum, I was directly scared to death. Soldiers with low levels and low health points were even killed instantly by Ayub. The super combat power of the cavalry was something no one had expected. Wang Shuo had not expected it, and Zhao Tian's had not expected it even more. In the last battle, Zhao Tian's thought it was a conflict between the two types of soldiers, but this time, he realized it clearly. It is not impossible for an invincible army to fight against 100 with one. Zhao Tian saw it with his eyes and was anxious in his heart. The troops that Ayub chose to charge were the weakest militia. The shield soldiers and sword soldiers at the front did not suffer serious losses at present. When the shield soldiers approached, the Black Mountain bandits immediately wrapped the crossbow battalion in the center and protected it. The two sides fell into a hand-to-hand fight. The Black Mountain bandits were born as bandits, and their level was also as high as level 20. After Wang Shuo replaced them with sophisticated equipment, although they were not elite, their combat effectiveness was already incomparable to the past. Due to the level suppression, although the number of people is not dominant, the Black Mountain bandits can fight 1 against 2, and they are not at a disadvantage at all. When Ayub charged again, a large number of Feng's village soldiers were trampled and killed. Zhao Tian's, hiding behind the wall, couldn't figure out where he lost. Is he really not the material to be a lord? But, he is the son of destiny with a system. At this time, he saw that the battle situation was unfavorable, and he didn't care about much. He directly took his only 200 archers and pressed forward. The attack distance of the archers was only more than 200 meters, which was still a certain distance from the battlefield. Wang Shuo saw from a distance that Zhao Tian's was not afraid and dared to fight in person, and he couldn't help but look up to him. After another round of cavalry charge, Wang Shuo reined in his horse and joined the cavalry team. "Let's go and destroy the opponent's archers," Wang Shuo roared and said to Ayub. "Yes, Lord." "Wait until the cavalry assembled again." Wang Shuo turned to look at Ayub and asked, "How is your cavalry formation?" "I have only comprehended 60%. Ayub held the reins in one hand and the Qing longsword in the other. He looked mighty and domineering, but his face was a little embarrassed. He suddenly felt a little embarrassed, thinking, "Lord, you are talking about something else. This battle can't be counted on." Wang Shuo smiled bitterly, clamped his legs tightly around the horse's legs. "Go." Zhao Tian saw Wang Shuo rushing over aggressively, and although he was afraid in his heart, he still pretended to be calm. "Shoot them to death," he immediately commanded the archers to attack the cavalry.